Chapter 64:11. At this time, most of the employees in the Port Railway Freight Station had already gone off work, except for the workers working in the loading and unloading yard. There were basically no people in other places. In the night, Charlie and Duncan, led by the person in charge, came to a section of rails not far from the unloading station. Later, after the train from Duke Mining was unhooked, the locomotive would stop nearby for the night. Charlie planned to wait for the driver to stop the car here, then control the driver, and then get on the car to check the driving record. Soon, the whistle of the train was heard in the distance, and a few minutes later, a freight train loaded with phosphate slowly entered the station. The dispatching instructions came from the handheld radio carried by the person in charge. Then the track automatically changed tracks and led the train to the target platform. Railway staff and dozens of employees responsible for loading and unloading were already waiting here. The train had just stopped, and the railway staff was responsible for unhooking the locomotive. And the loading and unloading workers had begun to transport the phosphate in the carriage out. Then, under the guidance of the dispatcher, the locomotive drove the locomotive to the designated parking place. Charlie had already used his spiritual energy to investigate. There was only one driver on the train. He had no cultivation and was not a warrior. He was probably not a member of the Warriors' Den. When the train stopped and turned off, the driver pushed open the door and backed up carefully from the high ladder. He had already stepped on the last step and could get off by jumping to the side. At this moment, he suddenly felt someone patting his trouser legs from behind. He was startled and looked back to see an Asian man looking at him. He was angry and thought the other party was playing a prank. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly felt his mind go blank. Then, he saw the Asian man making a climbing gesture to him, and the whole person climbed up uncontrollably. Duncan shouted in French from behind, and the other party immediately reopened the door and entered the train's cab. Charlie and Duncan followed and entered the cab. Then Duncan ordered him to open today's driving record. The man immediately powered on the locomotive again, clicked on a square LCD screen on the side, and opened all the driving record videos for today. Duncan asked for a moment and then said to Charlie, "Mr. Wade, he made a total of 4 trips today. And the last trip went to Duke Mining. The Moroccan National Railway has equipped Duke Mining with a batch of freight cars. Generally, after Duke Mining loads the goods, they tow the empty cars over and then transport the fully loaded cars away, so that the driver does not have to wait for loading. He arrives at Duke Mining 3 hours later, halts the car, confirms the number of carriages and seals, and leaves." As he said, he asked the other party to open a video on the screen. After dragging the progress bar, the other party stepped aside and respectfully made a gesture of invitation to Duncan. In the picture, it was the picture of the train about to enter the Duke Mining loading yard. From a distance, Duke Mining is located in a vast yellow-white plain. Where the train passes, there are Duke Mining's phosphate mining areas on both sides, and a large number of engineering machinery are running at high speed in the mining area. What is a bit strange is that in the huge phosphate mining area in the picture, many workers are building and welding iron towers that are at least 20 to 30 meters high. The overall structure of the iron tower is similar to that of a high-voltage line tower, except that a platform for people to stand is welded in the middle and upper part. From the size of the workers in the video, it can be inferred that at least 7 or 8 people can stand on it at the same time. There are at least a dozen iron towers like this in the entire mining area, and several are under construction. Duncan paused the screen, pointed at these iron towers, and said to Charlie, "Mr. Wade, these iron towers should be used for warning. It seems that they are indeed strengthening security now." Charlie nodded and said, "The terrain there is very flat, and it is all phosphate mining area. There are no high-rise buildings outside. The height of this iron tower is enough to observe far away. If it is equipped with professional security equipment, it is really not easy to break in. Moreover, from the video, the mining area is still some distance away from the core location of Duke Mining. Yes, Duncan said, I checked the information on Skyline. According to the scale, they have pushed the mining area to at least 6 kilometers in all directions over the years. Because the mining area is getting farther and farther. They have now built several conveyor belts to transport the mined ore to the refinery. If they really penetrate from the periphery, it will be very difficult to penetrate such a long distance. Charlie nodded slightly and asked Duncan to continue playing. The train in the video was getting closer and closer to the refinery. The entire refinery looked like a prison, surrounded by high concrete walls. There were caltrops and high-voltage wires hanging above the walls. Although the rails led directly to the inside of the refinery, there was also a thick iron fence door at the entrance of the rails.